Hey friends, Angela Parrott, welcome back. We are in the book of Ecclesiastes. We are starting week 5 this week, and we will be in chapter 7. When I've been thinking about, making this video and writing the blog post and just reading over this week's verses and just, praying over them, reading some commentaries, I really wanted to focus today, on, at least in the video and the blog post, on chapter 7, verse 1, and it says, "A good name is better than fine perfume, and the day of death better than the day of birth." And I know, because I'm going through the study with you guys, I know sometimes some of these days the verses can be kind of hard. And when I was getting ready for this blog post, I was like, oh Lord, what do you want me to share about all this? And so I really did just pray a lot. No, I'm just using. And just read commentaries and just really, just really research, just these verses and stuff. And really what I felt like when I was researching all this and just reading over it and really meditating on the verses and really just thinking about, a good name is better than fine perfume. Well, what exactly does that mean? Or the day of death better than the day of birth? And I'm like, man, that just seems so contrary to our world and what we, the day of death is the day of birth is a happy event, and the day of death is a sad event for many families and stuff. And so I was just trying to really just pray through and think about, what was God, what was Solomon, thinking, and what was God really wanting us to learn through these verses. And I think what I came to is, a good name is better than fine perfume. Fine perfume is something that you can purchase. It's a thing, but a good name is something that you earn. It's from a life well lived, and it's not something that can come easily, right? It's through good choices, through being loving and kind. But fine perfume is just something that you can just easily give to someone, right? And then I went on and just thinking about the day of death is better than the day of birth. And I just wanted to encourage those of you who, maybe, you start out life. You don't have a choice, right? Who's your parents, what family you're born into, your circumstances. You don't really have a choice in your day of birth, right? But in the day of death, you've had a choice to live your life. I talk about in today's blog post of running your race. I love to think of life as running our race. And I just finished a race this weekend. And when you're preparing for a race, it's not always easy. Actually, a lot of times it's not easy. And there's a lot of obstacles in the way. There's a lot of times where you want to give up. And a lot of the stuff that happens just getting ready for a race happens in life. And I feel like so many times in our lives, those of us who maybe feel like we haven't had a good start, I want to encourage you that it doesn't matter. The start of our life doesn't matter as how well we finish. That legacy that we finish, how well we finish our life for the Lord. What that good name is at the end of it. And in today's blog post, I basically talk about two individuals. I talk about Mary of Bethany and Judas. And Mary, we don't know exactly the circumstances of her parents passing away, but we know that she's a sister. We know that Martha is her sister and Lazarus her brother. We know that when Jesus came to visit and came for dinner, that she sat at his feet, that she chose her activities wisely. When Jesus was in her home, she didn't want to be busy with dinner, right? She wanted to be sitting at his feet and listening and learning from him and just soaking him in. And then we also know, especially when it talks about fine perfume, Mary's the one who anointed the Lord with her perfume. And not only just her perfume, but her tears. She dearly, dearly loved him and worshiped him. And she has a good name. It talks about in Mark 14:9, it says, Jesus says, "I tell you the truth, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Mary of Bethany has a good name. But you contrast that with Judas, right? Judas, I read some commentary that said when he was born, his name actually was Judah, and that was a good, strong, royal name. And but because of how he ran his race, because of how he lived his life and the choices that he made, his name was ruined. His name was ruined by how he lived his life and the choices and how he betrayed the Lord for money and how he ended up committing suicide. I kind of contrast that where it's just, two different people's names, two different ways that they lived their life, they ran their race. and two different legacies that they live behind. And we all have a choice in the type of race we want to live. And not that it has to be perfect. We're all going to have bumps. We're all going to have times we're going to fall down. But we have to get back up and get back into the race. With our Lord, He gives us grace. He gives us hope. He gives us courage. He's building these amazing testimonies in our lives that other people need to hear. And so it is important. The day of death is important because in that day of death, we have this amazing legacy that we can give, we can share with others of the work that God did in our lives. It's not about us, but it is about the amazing work that God did in our lives. And so I really feel like that's what Solomon was talking more about, is about the difference of, fine perfume, something that can just be pretty much easily purchased, where a name, we have to earn it with the way that we live our life. The day of birth, we have no control of that, right, when we're born. But we do have control of the way that we live our life and the choices that we make, of how we use this life that God has given us to give Him glory back. And so I just want to encourage you guys with that today. In our comment section, I'm just going to ask you guys if you want to share some examples of someone in your life who has run his or her race well by the choices they made and just given God glory through their lives. So, because we love to hear those stories, and they just are just important stories to share, and they just encourage all of us as we run our races for the Lord. So thank you for joining us with week 5. I'm excited to start digging into chapter 7 with you. So thanks so much. Bye-bye.